Hey everyone. Welcome to Auspicious Brew. Thanks for being here, everybody. We had a bit of a fuller house than expected tonight. We're so excited you guys are all here. Grab a beverage. And I'm just going to do quick intros. My name's Marissa. I host this podcast with my friend Emily. I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Emily. I also use she, her pronouns. And we are so excited to see so many of you here tonight. Thank you for coming out.
So we're super excited. We are going to interview. I'll actually let you kick us off.
All right. Do you know who we're interviewing tonight? We're interviewing Helen and Jay, the two owners of Auspicious Brew. We were so lucky to sit down with them last week and get a little bit of a preview of this conversation. And I had no idea how much work it was to start this place, just how kind and community-driven these two individuals are. And I'm really excited for all of you to learn a little bit more about them.
So welcome on up. Give a warm welcome to Helen and Jay. Excuse us as we all get comfy in our very short chairs.
So at the last podcast recording, we had our two guests introduce each other, and we found that it's such a better way to get to know the guests a little bit more. And also, I know I personally do not like talking about myself, and so this is such a fun way to hear more about our guests. So would you like to introduce each other in whichever order you prefer?
Sure, yeah. To my left is my spouse, Helen Leavitt. She uses she, her pronouns. Pronouns are very important here, if you haven't guessed.
And this is Jay. She uses she, they pronouns.
Yeah.
Anything nice you want to say about each other?
Just like a little snippet, or your favorite thing about each other? Or
Yeah. Jay's the type of person that definitely lights up a room. Totally our musical guru here, and definitely the person that really the glue that holds everything together. And I say that not just here, but in our home life too. When you need something done, Jay's the person that you ask to finish it up for you.
Where do I start? Helen is one of the most supportive, kind-hearted people, and I don't say that lightly. She really is kind to everybody, without a doubt. Her heart is open to everyone. She is the genius behind all the flavor profiles you see here. She's come up with everything. The cocktails, the kombucha, the food, and we'll get into a bunch of that at some point.
One thing that you may all know is that Helen and Jay are business partners in Auspicious Brew, but they're also partners in life. So one thing I would love to ask is how you met and just sort of the beginning of your love story.
Sure, yeah. I will start with that. I moved to Newmarket in 2003. I was there for several years, kind of just trying to get myself together. Enjoying alcohol a lot, not being able to hold a job really well. And then 2008, I was still kind of doing it, kicking around, not really getting things together. And I was out at Bluegrass Night at the Stone Church. Yeah.
R.I.P.
A lot of Newmarket folks in the house.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was talking to a friend outside, and this person walked by me, and we both looked at each other. And it was this long moment, in the movies where everything slows down for a minute. It was very much that. And then we didn't really say anything. She went inside, I hung out, and then we ended up going, I went inside, and we got to chatting.
And we figured out pretty early on that we actually lived 2 houses down from each other on the same street. And we'd never really run into each other. I'd lived there for probably 9 months or so. Yeah. And basically, we never really stopped talking after that.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah. We've been together 17 years. Been married for 13. Yeah. Been business owners for 5, and we have 2 young boys, 12 and 10.
I would love to dig in a little bit more to kind of the Newmarket era. I think you guys had
It's an era,
you
for
both
sure.
really got you fell in love in Newmarket. You were both working in Newmarket living in Newmarket when all of this ideation started and this whole journey began. Can you and that was so woven through your whole story, is that community that was kind of there that supported you in those early days. So can you talk a little bit about what you were doing specifically at work and how the kombucha began, and sort of then how the community supported you guys through this process?
Yeah. So I was a student at UNH when we met, and I moved to New Hampshire and started at UNH, and pretty early on in that time period of my life, just the whole local food scene here really grabbed a hold of me. It was such a vibrant, real thing, such a not just a part of the conversation or something that people just talk about, but something that people actually live their lives by. And I had never lived anywhere or really had that be a part of the culture or society that I had grown up in. I studied anthropology and got involved in sustainable agriculture at UNH, and really that was the piece that really rooted me to this place, was just how much people in the Seacoast area genuinely care about the community and what's happening here in the local food system. And Newmarket was definitely a huge part of that.
For me, if you're around in an area long enough, you get to know people really well and the kind of businesses there are and the vibe. I mean, obviously, farmers markets, the farm community is really strong in this area. But on the business side, one of my best friends in the world, Jack O'Sullivan, he's going to love that I gave him a shout out, by the way. He was one of the owners of the Big Bean at the time. And so I saw one of the people that I know best in the world started just invest in a business, change it, work really hard. And now he's gone on to do two other, the Oak House and the Stone Church in Newmarket. So he's been a strong, huge support for me personally about what it takes to do this, run a business, and what it takes to keep it going and invest in the community around you.
Yeah, and I, after college, worked in different, farm and agricultural settings, and then kind of started to settle in that really wasn't going to be a sustainable, income source. It was really hard to work seasonal and, part-time, and then when we had kids, that all kind of was, off the table. I was getting paid, $10 an hour, and it just, didn't really make sense anymore. So the service industry had always been, I kind of grew up working in restaurants from the age of 15. And so I got involved in the local restaurant scene here and worked at a few farm to table restaurants. And I feel that really was where this all started to blossom for us, because just as somebody who waitressed or eventually bartended at a local restaurant, there was such a huge community of chefs and entrepreneurs within that industry here specifically that were so welcoming and supportive that, flash forward to 2017 when this started to kind of generate as an idea, we were invited to participate at a local event called Farmbarbecue that was put on by Slow Food Seacoast, and it takes place still every year in Lee at Tuckaway Farm. But it's a bunch of restaurants and breweries that set up, and if you has anyone here ever been to this event? Okay, y'all gotta go for sure.
Yeah.
You buy a ticket essentially, and there's usually 30 plus different restaurants, breweries, etc. That everybody sets up a tent, and there's always a theme, but people bring a little sampling of something that they're passing out to everyone all day. So as a ticket holder, you just get to walk around and try everything that all the really well-respected and loved restaurants have brought.
Established restaurants.
Yeah. So somehow or another, I had been making kombucha on my own, and we got invited to participate in this event, and really we weren't a business, we weren't a brewery, we just kind of got pulled in, and it was like all these people who like owned their own businesses just kind of said, hey, like, why don't you just do this event with us, and we'll see like how it goes.
We were home brewing and we were pouring in liquor bottles, so we were literally pouring them to people, and they were like, where can we get this? What is this? How can we do more? And we're like, we don't know.
Yeah.
Is this even a thing? Like, we didn't know what was going to happen. People wanted us to keep going.
So around this time where you're really getting passionate about the kombucha, it's starting to be a thing that both of you are doing. You've got 2 small kids. And around this time, I believe, Jay, you had said that was around the time that you came out. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
It was late 2018. So I'd been working at this company for about 12 years, and they had announced they were going to close their doors. So I was going to ride it out for a year. And then this thought came to me about what happened next, what I did, what was the next chapter of my life. Because we were just starting out as business, and it was really more Helen, and we had a partner at the time. So I was like, I knew I would have a role here. I just didn't know what that looked like, and also what this thing that I always been struggling with, my gender identity. And I tried to come out a few times through my life, and being born in the late 70s, everything in the 80s and 90s revolved around, cross-dressing and transgenderism. The language wasn't really there for me personally. It was very like either you were some deranged family member or you were the laughingstock of the neighborhood. And that wasn't something I wanted. So I buried this stuff really, really deep. But when I started to really let myself think about what was next, and I realized I was going to be this sad person the rest of my life, that everybody was kind of like, well, Jay had walls up and they were kind of distant or whatever, but no one really knew why. And I was like, this is my chance to do this. And Helen and I had gone out to Colorado to visit some family. And while out there, I had never been. I'm from New England, like born and raised, and I felt a freedom unlike anything I've ever felt in my life. She was like, I'll drive, you just sit and look out the window. And it was this incredible journey about the mountains and the big sky and just openness, this freedom I had never felt in my life. So I came back here and I thought about it, and I was like, how do I achieve that freedom? Like, what has been keeping me from feeling that way? And I came home one day and I knew I was going to say it. And I think anybody who has been in my position has accepted the fact that they could potentially lose everybody. Like you tell your wife of 7 years at the time that you've been living a lie in many ways, keeping a big secret from them. You're going to lose people. Your marriage may be over. Your children may be whatever. They may hate you, all the things. But that wasn't the case. Helen, being so in tune with me, she said to me, quote unquote, there's something you want to tell me, and you don't know how to say it. And I was like, you can't get a better way into anything. And you're like, yup, here it is. And then the first year was very hard, very difficult. And then after that, I think you more than anybody realized the incredible person that you knew was there the whole time. And you're like, oh yeah, this has been the issue. And so yeah, it's just I was with the right person. It was the right time, and the rest is history. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Helen, anything you want to add about that time? And just in general, I think that was such a challenging time for both of you. And, you were telling us this story when we talked last week about how you're literally switching cars between shifts so you can transfer kids because it's easier to switch cars than it is car seats. Anyone who's a parent understands that.
We would meet in the Hannaford parking lot on the way to Durham, and we would switch cars because I'd be working all week and Helen would be going to Newmarket to work at Joinery in the restaurant there at the time.
Yeah, I mean, that part of our lives was, and I mean, in a lot of ways still is. It's just like about survival. Like we lived paycheck to paycheck, and we're like pretty new parents at the time. And I don't know, something just sort of kicks in at least it did for us at that point in time, where you're like, I just got to do whatever I got to do now. Like, it's not really just about me anymore. So whatever, I don't know, the responsibility just kind of like takes over you, and you just sort of like go. So I think that era of our lives, we definitely like had our heads down a lot. Like you worked Monday through Friday, I worked Friday through Sunday, and like, we literally met up in parking lots and exchanged cars and kids, and we're like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow.
Sunday, maybe. And then Helen used to tell me all the time, because I was working so much and driving so much, her goal was to one day have a job where I would be working part-time, or she'd be the one carrying the load, and I'd be working a little bit, as much as possible.
Yeah, because
that was the plan.
We couldn't afford like childcare, so that was just like how we made it work, was that you worked full-time and I worked like nights and weekends. And so we like covered all the bases, but what we definitely lacked was like quality time for sure. Yeah.
And so around this time, you were brewing the kombucha, you started doing the pharmaQ events. And so how did it start sort of forming as an idea that you were going to start a business and do this? Can you talk us through sort of like the process of that?
Totally. So like I always tell people when they ask about the origin story, I'm like, this really wasn't my idea to do this. This was not my idea. I had a lot of other ideas for businesses to start. Like I really wanted to start a grocery store, essentially. Like and now there really is no co-op around here. But for me, kind of going back, like I majored in anthropology. I learned a lot about like inequality that was really structural, and a lot of it was tied to like not having access to food and healthy food. And that was just like a sticking point for me. It was something that I felt like was a tangible like piece that I could actually do something about, because I was a 19-year-old college student that all of a sudden was like growing food with my friends, and we were like serving it to folks at food pantries and at the like Ways Meat Center community dinners, and it was just a really like a catalyst for me. So I ended up getting involved in like working and kind of like focusing in on herbalism in particular. And at the same time, because I was coming to terms with the fact that working in agriculture in New England was like pretty challenging, that I was working in the service industry, so kind of like straddling these two worlds. And really like there's just sort of a cross section of what it meant to work with ingredients, and I had a lot of time like behind the bar that I was able to experiment with flavor profiles. And then really like kombucha, it was something that I drank a lot of. Like I just found myself at a certain point in time like buying it every week when our kids were like really little. And because money was always so tight, it was one of those things like, well, I bet if I made this myself, like it would be a lot more affordable. And so I, got supplies together, started making it. And because I had experience and had access to a lot of like fresh plants, and I was like starting to do like foraging and working like at an herbal medicine center, really like it was the combination of combining fresh herbal ingredients with the kombucha that really like sealed the deal for me, because I just found that like the medium of kombucha itself was such a good way of representing like how plants actually tasted, the like real aromas. Like I feel like for me it was like nothing else. Like, when you make tea or you like extract something with oil or a tincture, like there's always this like real change that happens. But I just really felt like kombucha was such a good medium to like authentically represent these essences and flavors that, I mean, like, not a knock on beer, but like so often you drink beer and you like read the label, you're like, there's chamomile in this. And then I try it, I'm like, okay, like if you say so, but like it kind of gets lost in the process. And so when I started experimenting with kombucha, and combining them with herbs, I was like, this is like, really for me, it was just something I knew I would never get bored doing. I was like, I can just experiment with this endlessly. And there's always like new combinations to try. And then I started just like sharing what I was making, because if you make kombucha at home, you kind of like, if you keep making it, you sort of like can't drink as much as you're probably making, because it really actually does like multiply. And so I just started bringing it into the place I was working at and sharing it with coworkers and eventually sharing it with regulars. And then like it kind of snowballed from there.
You know, so much of, I think, when people think about Auspicious, they think about what you're talking about, the incredible kombucha, the flavor, and the herbalism. I want to do a whole separate side podcast about the herbalism side of it that is going to have to live on a different feed. But I'm personally, I just want to know. But I think the other thing people always think about when they're thinking about Auspicious Brew today is you're such an important part of this community. You're an important part of the community as a whole. I think especially with the queer community, you've become really a safe place for people. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, in those early days, like, were you in your wildest dreams kind of thinking about that piece of it and the sort of community element of it?
Not at all. We were fortunate through all the stories Helen was talking about. We were connected to a lot of like sort of heavy hitters in like the restaurant industry on the seacoast. And a lot of those people brought us into like their community very quickly. They just saw something in us. I don't know if it's because Helen and I like to do things really difficult. If there's an easy way to pick things, it drives our family nuts. When we had our kids, we used cloth diapers, and I would
didn't have a washer and dryer.
And we didn't have a apartment. Yeah, and I would crank the washing machine. We'd hang. It was like the 1920s. And our parents, everybody would. It was
like, why are you guys doing this?
And so when you were talking, you know, we had nothing but like the jars of green crushed up herbs in our house with yellow liquid. I mean, it was all just very challenging for people to get behind. And this is no different. And like, so we met these amazing people, and they were like, keep going, just keep doing your business. You're doing it right. We're like, what are you talking about? This is nothing. And so when we got here and we opened our doors and people started to figure out who we were and wanted to come here, I think a lot of it has to do with the space itself. I mean, this is like a living, breathing thing. I tell anybody that comes here and works here, that's something they really have to understand. Like, it's not, when we're asking you to do stuff and whatever the list is of jobs you have to do, it's Auspicious needs that. Like, it's very, like, this place needs that kind of thing. And I think people feel that when they come in here, it's not like, some people constantly are telling us it's not like anything else. They walk in like, this is like nothing else. And we're like, how do we take that? Because it's weird. We're, you know, you see us, we're weird. This is weird. It's all very much like, oh, what do I do? But the other side of that is that people come in and say, oh, this is like nothing else. I can sit here and I can be here for hours and I can drink this amazing thing and be around this thing. And that's the idea, is to sort of leave whatever was happening with you, and we wanted it to be like that. And so I think a lot of people connected with that, especially in the queer people. We're constantly looking for places where, like, I can get here and nobody's looking at me, or no one's saying anything, and no one even cares, you know? And so we see that time and time again, especially with the young kids that come, the young queer kids that come here. They kind of get wind of it. They come here and, like, dress very, like, safe, as you would when you go out into the world the first time. You're like, I don't want to like show too much or be too much. And then you're like, oh no, I can do that here. And you see them week after week, they let themselves go a little bit more and they can become who they want to be.
That must be fun to watch that evolve over time. Sorry, Helen, I'll let you jump in.
It is. And I mean, I think in our like wildest dreams, we hoped that we would be able to host events and that people would show up and that it would be special, but like to imagine, I don't know we couldn't have imagined like what it would become, or like how meaningful it would become to people.
We said yes a lot to a lot of things at the beginning because we were, number one, desperate to just get people here. And number two, we like things. Like, Helen and I like things a lot. We like ideas. We like, what, you want to come and do this thing? You want to like put this thing on? Sure. Well, yes, we can try that. And
A
sometimes
couple
it
of moms
works.
got a podcast. Sure, come on in.
Thank you for taking a chance on
it's
us.
like, yes,
guess.
we got the place for you. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and you have to just like learn and pivot like through it all. Yeah.
So now that you are 5 years in, how would you describe the first 5 years? Like, what are the highs, and what did you learn the most from?
Yeah, we were just talking about this.
Okay, so the first year, people definitely warn you about this. They warned me about this in starting a business. They were like, the first year is going to be crazy. Like, just like get ready. It's going to be nuts. And that was like absolutely true. The first year felt, there's no like trial run for stuff like this. Granted, we did spend like 4 years, building the business, recipe testing, networking, raising money, like just to get ourselves here. We didn't show up with like everything that we needed by any means to make this happen.
Right.
But there isn't like you get licensed and then it's time to go. Like you're open. And for what we were doing, like we couldn't sell any kombucha until we had all the licensing lined up.
What year was that?
This was that we got licensed, 2020.
No, yeah, what was happening in 2020?
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah,
So yeah, it was
yeah.
March of 2020 when we like signed our lease, and so actually back it up 1 month. February of 2020, we signed a lease. We like closed on a business loan that had taken us like literally 4 years to acquire. And then in March of 2020, I got laid off from my restaurant job, and that restaurant closed forever. And so we had kind of planned to just ease into this whole thing. I was like, I'll keep my job on the weekends. Like, we'll do this Monday through Friday. We'll just like see what happens. I don't know. We'll just like make kombucha and like see what happens. And then it was really clear that that was not going to be a possibility. And for me, like, it was a little bit like jarring. Like I think so many of us were really jarred at that point in time. I ultimately took it as like, this is it. Like, you don't have the opportunity, like the option of failing is really like not on the table. This is like, you're all in. You didn't know you were all in, but like you are fucking all
Which
in.
is what I'm always saying. That's more my philosophy on things, and Helen's more of a reserve, like, well, I don't know, we'll wait and see. And I'm like, I'm not waiting. We're going in. We're jumping in the pool. A lot of our business model was based on keg sales to restaurants and people that we had connected with. And that was the whole thing. And then they were like, well, we don't even know what we're doing. And so we're like, oh. So then Helen was packing up 4-packs, bringing them to every convenience store, whoever it was. Here's this thing we just did. And they're like, what's this? And they put it on their shelf. And anybody who's been in like a convenience store knows, you're like, what am I even looking at? I'm getting the beer. I'm doing this. And then you're not looking at kombucha. This weird new thing that people don't know about, and we get lost. And so a lot of it was very disheartening in the beginning.
Well, yeah, and at the time when we like actually opened, there were so many places that were either closing themselves or like not taking on new products at all. And so the landscape in general, as we were trying to enter, was like very bleak, for sure. But people showed up. So we had a crazy like opening weekend, and we got an article published about us in Foster's, and I think that was a huge help. And then New Hampshire Chronicle reached out like 6 months in. They were like, would you want us to do a story on you? I was like, yes, definitely.
And people still come in and they're like, I saw it on Chronicle, and it's I know, it's just random.
But yeah, the first year was really about us literally just also learning how to use our equipment. Like, we had spent literally years researching, and because the kombucha industry, especially at that point in time, was like relatively small and developing, there wasn't like specific kombucha equipment that was available. So we had to kind of piece things together from like the wine industry and the beer industry so that we could end up with our like, final product. But it was all like theoretical. Like I spent like a year and a half talking to Scott from Stout Tanks in Oregon about like okay, Scott, this is what we want to do. Like, this is how much I'd want to be able to make like in a month. And then like he would recommend, all right, let's try this size. It's going to be this shape of like tanks. And I really was just like saying yes on the other side of the phone, but had actually like no idea what I was agreeing to. Until, flash forward like 3 years later, and this is all like really starting to happen, and we're in the space, and we've secured the funding, and this equipment starts to show up, and I'm like, I don't know how to use any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
We've been making 10-gallon batches in Crocs
see,
at
we
home.
had one. There's Crocs above that fridge there. We had one of those 10-gallon Crocs, and that was the biggest batch size that we made.
And there's still a water ring on the table at home. And when we have our staff over, we give them a nice little tour of this is where it happened.
But we were scaling up to 150-gallon tanks. And so there was a huge learning curve, literally, of just like how to make kombucha. We had kind of modeled the whole process off of what we were doing at home because that was all that we knew. But it turned out like there was a lot of like little nuances and things that had to be tweaked and adjusted in order to make kombucha that we could distribute that would have like any amount of a shelf life. And we definitely learned the hard way with like sending out bottles that were overcarbonated and like having accounts call us and be like, someone just opened a bottle and it like exploded all over them. And it was there was a lot of unknowns. And we're just really like getting our feet wet with the whole thing, but like in real times too. So it's like this whole leading up to it, you're like doing all this like projecting and planning, and you're like trying to get people to rally around your idea, because all the time we had to just like sell this idea to people.
Right. Everybody was like, what? You know what you should do?
Yeah.
We heard that a lot. And it's kind of, this past year sort of like died down, but people were always telling us, you know what you should do? Instead of kombucha, you should blah, blah, blah. And you're like, we're doing kombucha. And they're like,
yeah, nobody wanted us to do it in this space either. Everyone we talked to was like, that's not a good space. Yeah. It's not a good location.
And it was always going to be Dover. So we were like, sorry.
As soon as we ever saw this space, I was like, I'm not looking at any other spaces. This is it. And literally, like, because I worked in Newmarket, we live in Berwick, for like a full year to 2 years. Every Sunday, I would drive specifically through downtown Dover, and I would stop in the parking lot, and I would climb up on this windowsill, and I would look into the window, and I would be like, we're gonna fucking do this.
The door,
And it was empty. It was completely empty.
The door was both. It was like a plywood piece of wood. There was no staircase. It was all just empty, dusty. And you're like, we're gonna serve drinks.
Yeah. And as often as we could, we would get like the property manager to let us into this space, and it was completely empty. Like there was a 3-bay sink in the back and a hot water heater, and that was it. Concrete floors. Yep. And we would come in here with our kids, and they would like climb on the scaffolding, and we would like tape measure, draw like chalk on the floor. And I remember like it was kind of towards the end of our build out.
My birthday.
You and me sitting over in that windowsill, and we were like mapping. We were like, and this is where the stage is gonna go.
Yeah. And then no one talked about the stage for a while, and I was like, oh, guys, what about the stage? So we didn't have a stage for, I don't know, 2 years, something like that. We had music and bands and performers in here without a stage, and it was just very much like DIY in the best way possible.
Well, the reality of like us being here was that like we lived paycheck to paycheck, and like pretty much still do, and we had to build this like step by step. So even though we were able to like raise some money and we eventually got a business loan, like it wasn't for the amount of money that we needed to really like see this thing through. It was just all that we were qualified to borrow. And so we got to a certain point like in our construction process before we like really got going, where we had this whole plan to like build up the tasting room, build a bar, have a stage, like really like let's do this. And then it was really clear like we had to cut our budget in half. Like it was like nobody was gonna let us that amount of money. And so we focused on getting the equipment that we needed, being able to like really just like start the brewery. And then when we opened, we like literally there was nothing up here. Like there was a counter, and we bought a bunch of merch, and we just like spread it all around like as decoration. Yeah. The timing of it being during COVID was like sort of a blessing in disguise for us, because we were able to kind of like sit back and see how other businesses responded. Like we opened in November of 2020. So the fact too that like a lot of folks were not going out kind of worked for us, that we didn't have a tasting room to host anyone in anyways. We kind of just had to leave this part of the space unfinished. And then it wasn't till like kind of like springtime 2021 that we were like, okay, I think it's time to create that offering here. And I think that's really been like a big part of how we've continued to grow is like I said, like this really wasn't my idea, but it was something that we were encouraged to do and supported like from our community to take the leap to just try it. And so just like throughout this whole process of like the things we've done and the things that we've tried and what we've integrated into our business so far really has also come from just like listening when people show up here, when they walk through the door and they like continuously ask us for beer and food and cocktails. We were like, okay, this is like a very more than a sign. Like people are continuously letting us know like what they need, what they're looking for, and so it's been a really incredible like kind of compass to come back to, is really just listening to the community.
Yeah.
You guys have built something like step by step. It's so interesting to hear this too, because we're really like living in this era of private equity buying up all the restaurants and like mass-produced Cisco food being served everywhere. And to hear these, you know, the two of you have like put so much of yourselves into every single step of this, like making the phone calls to learn how the machinery works and like all this kind of stuff is like, there's so much that goes into it. And so I think it feels very it's very tangible here when you come here, that this is like made with love and that like this was literally all done with love. And I think that really like translates. And the fact that you like manifested this, like you standing at the window, I don't think we touched that on our pre-interview.
No,
I got a little choked up. Amazing.
We're doing the same thing for upstairs as well.
So that was, wow, thank you for making my transition for me. That was beautiful.
I love a transition.
That was beautifully done.
I do. There you go.
That was good.
Thank you.
Talk a little bit about, you know, some folks saw the sign on the way in and were asking me about it. And I was like, I'm not the best person to talk about this. But you guys have some really exciting plans about what you're trying to do next, because obviously you have gotten such a big reaction from the community and people want to be involved in what you're doing. Talk about what's coming next for y'all.
Well, I don't know if anybody knows Reed Buckley from the city of Dover, but Reed was here and she's been a huge advocate of ours in our ear and just pushing us forward on everything. And she came to one of our karaoke events, and it gets pretty packed in here. And then she said, you guys need more space. She came to us and talked to us. And we're like, what do you mean no more space? We're just barely getting used to this space. And she's like, you need more space. And so we thought about that. We're like, we really do need more space. We've outgrown every aspect of our business that we do here. It's a great problem to have unless you're the owners. Then you look at everything and you're like, oh my God, I hate everything. But that led us to like, what do we need to move? How do we reorganize this space so we get more room? And production was the big thing. Production needs to be bigger. How can we get production bigger? Is it off-site? Is it somewhere else? And then we talked to Chinberg, who's our landlord, was like, upstairs is open. And we're like, upstairs is open would change everything. So we've been talking to them for like a year. It's double the size of this space now. It's humongous. So there's all kinds of, it would meet all the problems, the issues that we run into. This would check every box. And so that's what's been planning for the past year.
Yeah, and I mean, you can probably feel, thanks.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
You probably feel it tonight, like, it really feels like we've sort of grown to the size of the container. And in terms of like manufacturing, we really don't have storage at all. So we can't really store our own ingredients. We really can't even store our own product in bulk. And so the like logistics of trying to distribute a product that you can't really buy the ingredients in bulk. So everything we purchase, like from the sugar to the tea, like we're buying it, making it, selling it, buying it. Like we can't buy a pallet of sugar, we can't buy a pallet of tea, because we literally don't have the room to keep it. And so that means we can't lower our costs for us, we can't really lower our costs to the consumer. And then like on the front of the house side, like we don't have a bathroom, number one, we all know that. And we, like there's limited space, and it's truly incredible. Like when we first ever saw this space, I think you and I both were like, this is like the biggest thing we've ever seen. Like, well, how could we even, because it was empty. And everything that's in here now, like we've intentionally and mindfully like placed in here. But I think in order for us to continue to grow in the way that we like feel this momentum around us, the only thing we can do is more space. And definitely, like, for me, there's been like a lot of fear around that. Like, the backside of running a business like this is that like our monthly operating expenses are more than like I make in a year, in a month, still, like ever did before and like still do now. And it blows my mind that we like, I'm like, we fucking doing this still every month? Okay, like we did it, whew. But every month feels like that. Every month feels like, are we gonna be able to do it? Like, how are we gonna make this work? And it's a lot of stress, it's a lot of pressure. Like, it's just really expensive to have a place. It's really expensive to buy bottles and ingredients when you can't store them in bulk. And so we need to be able to create more of our product and be able to distribute it more. We need to be able to host events that are bigger in order to like serve more drinks in a night. We need to have, you know, the way the space is set up now, we have 10 people that walk in at one time and we're like, oh my God, holy shit. Like we don't even have a 10 top. We were like, we pushed a bunch of 2 tops together. And so, yeah, we've kind of like been like punting this thing the whole time, like piece by piece. And it feels like now, like it's our 5-year anniversary. Like this is what kind of gave us the courage to launch a GoFundMe was that we had been sort of suggested that all along when we're like trying to like raise funds and meet with people who like maybe were going to become investors and talk to banks and like you name it. That idea was always kicked around. And for me, I was like, you know, if we're ever going to do that, like number one, we really need to have captured like a pretty decent audience. And then it really has to be like the right time. It really has to be for the right reasons. And like this point, like in our trajectory, like really is pivotal because it's crazy. Like people all the time, like you guys are killing it. Like you're doing so much stuff, but like I kid you not, like it's very, very hard to make ends meet because we are not able to like meet the demand. We have like kombucha that people want to buy, like our wholesale accounts, for example, that we have to go out of stock on because we literally don't have enough room in the walk-in to like bottle anymore and put any more cases in the walk-in. Yeah. So we have like invoices that we created that we can't fill because we don't have the space to put the stuff in. So like these logistical problems that really can only be solved with more space. We're so excited that there is space above us, but there's that piece of kind of like starting over and figuring out how to make it work and how to like sustain it truly.
Yeah, it like kind of blows my mind just thinking about what a little bit, not even a little bit, a large amount of space could do not only for events, but also just the logistics that you're talking about being able to buy in bulk so the prices then go down. It's wild how the ripple effect is for this much space. And we'll definitely put the GoFundMe in the show notes for this.
Thank you.
Can you just tell us, like, just really quick, kind of dreamily, what it would look like? I know that you've kind of put it online, and it was so gorgeous.
Okay, it's hard to tell now maybe, but if you look in the back corner there, you can see that there's like a ceiling panel that's different than the rest of the ceiling. And when you're upstairs, that literally is like a sunken in piece of plywood. So the spaces at one point like were connected. And so really like our main goal with this expansion is that we move our production upstairs. So right now behind those like black poles is where we brew and bottle and can like all the kombucha. So as like what we all do up here, like the front of house portion of our business has become like more thriving. Our production like kind of keeps getting like pushed back into this small corner. So moving our production upstairs and then reconnecting the 2 spaces by like taking the walk-in down where it is and building a staircase. And then we want to take away some of the ceiling so that when you're upstairs, you still have a view of the stage. And really like our goal with that is we've recognized over the last like year or 2 as we have more like busy and well-attended events that we're doing, we think, a good job of like hosting people who really want to be like in the action. Like you want to be front and center. That's like what you're going to get if you're here like on a Friday night most likely. But if you want to like socialize but like kind of hang back, you can't.
Good luck.
Like you can't do that here. There's no place to hang back. And I know that like alienates people, and that there's folks that are probably like, I can't do that. Like it's too crowded. Like it's too loud. And so the upstairs would also allow us to have like additional seating that is like more comfortable.
8 top, 10 top.
Yeah.
There'll be a bathroom. We'll have a bathroom down here. The bar will become a 20-seat full square, and you'll be able to access all the way around.
Yeah, because right now, too, like, the flow is difficult. Like,
Yeah.
our bar was built, it's got 9 seats. Like, it's not built to accommodate 100 people. So when we do have that many people in here, just like the logistics of sort of, like, how many people we can have working behind the bar and how quickly people can get a drink, like, these are all things that we're kind of, like, pulling our hair out about.
So our
and just
capacity
hoping that
is
everybody
overhead.
can kind of bear with us as we try to, like, behind the scenes make it, like, more accommodating.
Our capacity is going to move from 40 to 50 to about 120, which a lot of bands, because music is a big part of what we do here, and so a lot of bands have come here, and a lot of bands want to come here, and when they find out our capacity or our sound, it becomes very difficult for them to agree to that, and so we lose out on some of just hosting bigger acts, and that's something we want to like push to do more. Like, we don't want to say no. We don't want to say it's not going to happen. We want to say yes.
And we'd also be able to use the upstairs space for like private events. More like when we first started, I was teaching yoga here, and then like we kind of had to put that to the side. So like more like classes like that.
Yeah. Multiple events. We host a market every few months. The change of the season, usually the solstice, we usually have a community market with some of the local artists. That could be something that we would do more often, and also it would be we hope you can fit probably like 24 vendors in here. We would love to double
But
that.
it's quite tight.
Yeah, we have to, so we more of that, like more of local, just giving people a chance and a platform that they normally wouldn't have. That's what we're looking to do with this improvement.
Because ultimately, like this place is about like allowing folks to express their own creativity. Like it's not just about like what I want to put on the menu. It kind of started as that, like a way for me to like have literally a space where I could make herbal products or kombucha, food. But because we've continuously had so much support and like people showing up, and we started like a little pop-up shop that turned into a regular thing where we sell other people's stuff on consignment. And then when we built the stage, like it was really like our commitment to just having a permanent spot in here for people to be able to express themselves. And because we've gone through this journey and like really know how difficult it is in order to like acquire a space like this, we want to be able to share it with as many people as we can. And then the flip side is like we literally wouldn't be able to sustain this if people didn't show up. And so it's a completely like reciprocal relationship that like Auspicious Brew has with the community. And so our expansion is really just about looking at all the ways that we like haven't been able to show up for the community thus far, and like trying to continue to fill those gaps.
And we're so grateful for the ways you do show up for the community already. And I just want to acknowledge how much you mean to every single person here. And so as we start sort of winding down our conversation, if anybody listening was to start a business, what is one piece of advice that each of you would give?
Go ahead. You have a good one. Yeah.
It's know when to ask for help. I think like you hear this about entrepreneurs, like you got to wear like so many hats, and it's definitely true. And if you don't like flipping like around your roles a lot and you aren't maneuverable, then like you're probably gonna be very uncomfortable. But like recognize what your own strengths are and know like who you have to pull in, or even if you don't know them, just know like what your own shortcomings are so that you can ask for help. Because even if you're like a solo entrepreneur and you just work by yourself, like you don't do this alone. We don't really do anything alone. And so knowing when to ask for help, I think like you can't do that without it.
I would say, remember why you're doing it. A lot of times, you get moving and things, it sort of evolves in other ways. But like, if you have these little reminders to yourself about like the part you really like doing in the beginning. Like, recently we opened back up again at noon, and it's given me a chance to get back behind the bar, which is where I absolutely thrive. I love talking to people. I love interacting with people. But for a minute, when we brought our manager on and the staff, and for like a year, Helen and I sort of caught our breath with that stuff, and I wasn't doing that. And things had moved beyond me in a lot of ways with the menu. And just me forcing myself back into that position again has really been like, oh yeah. And then we started talking about like, what else? Remember the early days we really cared about this and we connected with this. Like, we have to tap into that aspect of it again. So like, just the reason why you started, like what you really liked in the beginning.
Those are great. Thank you.
I love that.
Yeah.
Any
It's kind of like marriage, I said.
my last question for you guys is just one of the themes that's kind of come up a lot in the conversations we've been having leading up to this is like how much you had to figure out on your own, how much you got mentored by people around you in the community. We talk about imposter syndrome a lot, and I think a lot of folks feel that in their daily life. Any advice for people who are dealing with that feeling of like, I am not equipped for this, and how you've kind of made, now are you able to kind of be on the other side of it now? Or is there always an element of it that sits with you?
Every day, every event that we do, literally everyone, I hate it. I hate that hour. That hour before is like you're having a party and you're not sure if anyone's coming. It happens to me every single Saturday night. Every single night we do something, and I look around and we bring the bands here, we bring the people here, and it's me and them looking at each other like, I hope this happens tonight. And it does. It always does. But good God, that is the most pit in the stomach feeling, I think, and I don't know if it'll ever go away.
Yeah, I know. I wish I had a better answer for that too. I think
I
we're
threw
probably
that one
still
on you a
working
little bit.
through it.
Well, thank you guys both so much for sharing and being open with us, sharing the story you've been through. We really, really appreciate it. We will be putting all the information in our show notes about how you can donate to the GoFundMe. Couple of last quick call to action before I let you all clap and hoot and holler these folks off stage with me is we are coming. I just want to call out, SNAP benefits are running out at the end of this month. Please look into food pantries in the area, look into ways that you can reach out to your neighbors, put flyers in people's mailboxes and offer to help. Find any creative way you can to start getting food into your community. I'd love to chat with you guys if you have any ideas. I'm trying to think about what I personally can do with what we can do with our platforms and what we can do there. And then I just want to give a quick shout out to, we're not a political podcast, but we have some political friends. We have Karishma Manzoor here is running for U.S. Senate. We have John Kuiper. I think John Kuiper is still here. John Kuiper is here running for governor. So if you want a chance to chat with some of these folks directly, we appreciate them being here. And most importantly, we appreciate you guys being here. We appreciate the community you've built. We all get to benefit from it. So thank you so much for all the hard work you put
real
in.
quick. We are a MARF drop-off as well. So they come and get our stuff once a week. It's a great bin, usually hanging out back there. And we never set out to be political either, but we just are because of who I am. It just happens. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's
Thank
all
you
I have.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.